Hi guys! Another day to live, another day to love, and another day to love. So for today's lesson, we are dealing with methods in solving quadratic equation. Quadratic equation is a long journey that you can imagine. In line with this, we will divide lesson 1 into subtopics. We have lesson 1.1, the methods in solving quadratic equation. It has factoring, completing the square, extracting square roots, and graphing. For lesson 1.2, we have the characteristics of roots. And for lesson 1.3, we have solving equations transformable to quadratic equations. Now that you fully understood how to express quadratic equation and how to change quadratic equation into standard form, I will now provide to you the methods on solving quadratic equations. A quadratic equation with one unknown may be solved in several ways by extracting square roots, factoring, completing the square, using quadratic formulas, and by graphing. So for today, of these methods, factoring is the simplest, especially when the roots are rational and the factors can be seen easily. Let's start with solving quadratic equations by factoring. Some of the forms of quadratic equations which can be solved by factoring that is equated to 0 has the form, number 1, we have polynomials with common monomial factor. You meet this during your grade 8 mathematics. For number 2, we have perfect square trinomials, and for number 3, we have the general trinomials. So for our example, we have number 1, negative 3x multiplied by quantity x minus 5 is equal to 0. And for number 2, we have 4y squared minus 81 is equal to 0. We can use the zero factor property for this factoring method. The equation is equivalent to 0. One or both of the factors of an equation are equal to 0. Let us now discuss the steps in solving quadratic equation by factoring. Step number 1 is to place all given terms on one side of the equation and equate to 0. For step number 2, we need to factor the resulting expression. For step number 3, we need to set each factor containing the unknown equal to 0. And for number 4, we need to solve for the unknown in the simple equation form. And last but definitely not least, for number 5, we have to check each root by substituting in the given equation. Let's have now the example. Solve the quadratic equation by factoring. For number 1, we have the negative 3x multiplied by quantity x minus 5 is equal to 0. Using the zero factor property, we can divide the equation into 2 and equate it into 0. So we have negative 3x first is equal to 0. So divide both sides by negative 3, cancel it out. The answer is, or the value of x is simply equal to 0. And the second equation is x minus 5 is equal to 0. So we can use the transposition method or the addition property of equality. So we have x minus 5 plus 5 is equal to 0 plus 5, or simply transpose negative 5 to the right side of the equation. So we have x is equal to 5. For that, our answer is, therefore, the values of x is 0 and 5. The solution set is 0, 5. For number 2, we have 4y squared minus 36y is equal to negative 81. Solution is for us to transpose negative 81 to the left side of the equation, then use the perfect square trinomial. So we have now the 4y squared minus 36y plus 81 is equal to 0. Since I transpose negative 81 to the left side of the equation. Factor it out, we have 2y minus 9 quantity squared. Because when you use the FOIL method, when you express or factor 2y minus y, that is 2y minus y, 2y minus 9. 2y minus 9 and 2y minus 9. And the result would be 4y squared minus 36y plus 81. So now, let's use the square root method. So simply use the square root for both sides of the equation. So the square root of 2y minus 9 quantity squared is equal to plus minus the square root of 0. So cancel it out. So we have now 2y minus 9 is equal to 0. Again, we can use the transposition method or the addition property of equality. I use the APE, so we have now 2y minus 9 plus 9 is equal to 0 plus 9. Then, we have now 2y is equal to 9. How do we simplify this? Simply divide both sides by 2, so on the left side, only y will remain. So we have y is equal to 9 over 2. So our answer is the value of y is 9 over 2. For number 3, a bonus round, we have now quantity x plus 4 multiplied by quantity x minus 2 is equal to 0. We can actually use the zero factor property. So equate the two equations. So we have now x plus 4 is equal to 0 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. For x plus 4 is equal to 0, I use the APE. So we have x plus 4 minus 4 is equal to 0 minus 4. So with that, or cancel it out, or use simply the transposition, we have the value of x, which is equal to negative 4. Now, we have the x minus 2 is equal to 0. Again, I use the APE method, so we have now x is equal to 2. Therefore, the values of x are negative 4 and 2. The solution set is negative 4, 2. For number 4, we have 3y squared plus 2y minus 5 is equal to 0. For our solution, we need to split the general trinomial, then use the zero factor property. So we have now 3y squared plus 2y minus 5. We need to factor it out. So we have now 3y plus 5 multiplied by y minus 1 is equal to 0. Then, we can now split since we split the general trinomial into 2, we can use now the zero factor property, in which we have 3y plus 5 is equal to 0 and y minus 1 is equal to 0. So with that, we can actually subtract both sides by negative 5 or simply transpose 5 on the right side of the equation. So we have now 3y is equal to negative 5. Divide both sides by 3. So we have now 7 is equal to we have y is equal to negative 5 over 3. So for the last equation, we have y minus 1 is equal to 0 or simply y is equal to 1. So for our answer, therefore, the values of y are negative 5 over 3 and 1. In that case, the solution set is negative 5, 3, 1. So again, let's work this out. Solve for the quadratic equation by factoring. So hopefully, you learned something for today's lesson. God bless and thank you once again.